Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Healing Black Women podcast. I am your host, LaQuanda Roberts Buckley, and we have a special guest with us. If you remember our conference from earlier this year, we have her back, and this is Miss Tisda Bing. Thank you so much, Tisda. Today, we're going to be diving into how intentional risk taking rewires an overwhelming feeling into empowerment for Black women. So, Tisda, you can tell us about yourself, and we're going to just hop into today's conversation.
Oh, Laquanda, thank you so much for having me back. I always enjoyed the community, Healing Black Women community. And my career path has been anything but conventional. I've been a professional dancer, a cyber lawyer, an investment banker. I started businesses in Japan. But what I'm focusing on now is helping Black women move from feeling burnout and overwhelmed to taking risk and stepping into boldness and adventure and self-discovery. It's a process I've been through myself, and it's part of what encouraged me to write my book, Self-Care Adventure for Bold Black Women. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to share with people today, and I am looking forward to chatting with you.
Oh, that's awesome. So thank you again for joining us today. And so we're going to dive right into our conversation. And so when we're talking about that intentional risk taking, right? You know, we take risks and then sometimes it was just something we're randomly doing, but you're really talking about the intentionality of it. So can you share like some of your insights on how intentional risk taking can actually transform, like take us from that feeling when we're overwhelmed to that sense of empowerment for Black women?
Sure, risk taking, I think it sometimes can get a bad rap, but what I mean by risk taking is not putting on a blindfold and driving backwards down the freeway. It's not that kind of thing, but it's going to a place where you start to feel a little bit scared. You start to wonder, am I making a mistake? Oftentimes, I think that's your fear talking to you, and you see it as a risk, whereas it's really not as risky as you might think. And so, what I'm talking about risk taking, I'm talking about going to the place where you're pausing, you're hesitating, your heart's beating, you might be sweating, you're feeling nervous, you're trying to talk yourself into it because you don't want to do something. That's the kind of risk that I'm talking about. And often, on the other side of that risk, if you just go for it, even though you're feeling fearful or scared, whatever, if you go for it, there's often huge surprises waiting for you on the other side. And that is, like I said, I think it's because what we see as risk is often just fear. So when I'm talking about calculated risk taking or risk taking generally, for Black women, so often we are feeling, oh, but I can't, oh, but I shouldn't, oh, but people are whatever it is, we put up a barrier between what we're feeling drawn towards, what our soul might be calling us towards. And for whatever reason, we say, no, I can't do it now. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time, whatever it is. And so the risk taking is like, do it anyway.
You know, it's that do it anyway thing. And you know, sometimes when we're thinking about other people, right, and we get into that do it anyway, we're immediately, oh, I'm gonna do this for this person because I want to make sure this person is okay, right? So we're thinking about somebody else, we're thinking about, oh yeah, we can do it anyway. But when it comes to ourselves, we kind of get somewhat stagnant, right? And
Mhm.
so when we're getting stagnant with ourselves, what are like some practical steps that we can take to start bringing some of that intentional risk taking into our daily lives?
Well, risk taking doesn't have to be crazy, like I was saying. It could just be trying something new. And part of the reason I wrote the book was when I was coming out of the pandemic and I was so burnt out. I don't know what I was feeling. I wasn't feeling anything. I was bored. I was depressed. It's like, who am I? I just completely lost touch. So I took myself on a personal retreat where I had no calendar, no rules, no nothing, just an open, no to-do list, just me and space and time. And it was terrifying. I was petrified. So of course I watched Netflix. I binge watched Netflix until I said, well, this isn't how I'm trying to get back in touch with myself. And then I remembered some friends of mine. I have one good friend who lives by the motto, try something new every day. And I have another friend who lives by the motto, take a risk every day. And so, in kind of combining the both of those ideas, I just started pushing myself to do something just to refresh. And in that experimentation, I found my passion again, my passion for writing, my passion for communicating, design. And that's why I'm saying just a refresh could be sometimes all you need. And that refresh could be going to a store you've never been to before because you might be afraid to go into it. For instance, I live in Philadelphia and there are a lot of Asian stores here. I
Huh?
have friends who just they see the Asian stores, but they don't know anything about anything, so they're afraid to go in. I say, well, just do it anyway. Just go in the store, see what people are buying, see what types of people are inside, see what's on special. It's just an experimentation, just, it's refreshing your senses in part. Try something new. In my book, I have some adventures. For instance, take a $5 bill and walk up to a total stranger and give them $5. And it's like, oh my God, but who do I go to? What are they going to think I'm weird? Are they dangerous? Am I dangerous? It's just that whole, it doesn't have to be something very serious. It could be something kind of goofy even, but just something that's going to shake you up. And a part of what's important to me is having journaling space. There's space to write or doodle or just reflect on how you're feeling before you head out, during and after, just to kind of integrate the experience. And hopefully, in taking risks, you start removing some of the self-imposed limits, self-imposed boundaries in your own life, which leads to more freedom. So you don't have that burnout. You don't feel like you're under the weight of all the responsibilities, all the to-dos, everything, because you've opened a window, opened a door, and you've got more space to breathe and space to move.
You
So
know,
it,
you said something. And before we move forward, and I want to point this out. You said that when you went on your retreat, you started being watching Netflix, and then after a while, you knew like, I don't really think this is it, right? Because sometimes when we're by ourselves and we get that moment where sometimes we're doing the exact same things that we would do at home, but it's just in a different space.
Mhm.
Right. And so I wanted to point that out because you recognize that, hey, I'm still not connecting. Like I'm still not connecting to myself here.
It
And
wasn't what I was expecting or hoping, but I just went in with no assumptions. I just said, and it was surprising to me that not having something to do was terrifying. And so I was doing anything to fill up the silence, anything to fill up the nothingness, anything to fill up the space where my soul had an opportunity to talk to me. So and that I think is what, when we're in silence or we're in nature or in meditation, those are the scary, for me, those are the scary moments. That's the risk taking. It's like what's going to bubble up that I've been ignoring or trying to avoid but that's often, I think, where, the personal, the essence of who you are lives. So that's sounding kind of spiritual, and I guess it is spiritual, but yeah, I found at that time I spent a lot of energy in creating noise, creating busyness, making sure I had a calendar that was bursting at the seams, just because I didn't want to come to that space of quiet.
that's avoiding quiet. That's such a huge thing because being still when you used to being busy, it's a lot. It's a different version of yourself. And sometimes we don't know that version of
Mm.
ourselves. And it takes time to get to know that version of yourself. Thanks for pointing that out. Because
And this society rewards busyness,
yes.
productivity. Just do more, take on more. So it in a funny way, you're rewarded for it at the same time. It's like killing you.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, it's
kind of a
very
double.
interesting. So,
Mm.
when we're thinking about, and I know you said like the essence of who we are, and sometimes culture plays a huge role in the essence of who we are and how we do things. How do you think the cultural context plays a role in how Black women perceive and manage risk taking?
Well, risk taking, I think oftentimes, and I'm just speaking for me, my version of what you're asking. I think we feel so much pressure that I'm representing Black women. We've been told we have to be twice as good and work twice, all of that. So we bring a lot of pressure on ourselves into a situation. And people don't want to be that person that everybody's going to talk about. That person, I think there's, especially with social media nowadays, people, for good or for bad, are very aware of how they're projecting who they are. Um, so I think there's a certain fear people have of being fully themselves, especially in a space where that full expression of who they are can be blasted around the world. So I think for Black women, that cultural part is one element. But the wonderful thing about being a Black woman is we're often the only one or different in the situation, the context anyway. And our differences are superpower. We bring a different perspective. We bring a different type of curiosity. We ask different questions. And then if you take the mega version of our superpower, which is the sister circles, the sisterhood of Black women. So it's something that I think makes us unstoppable. And I think more and more nowadays, Black women were leaning into that and recognizing it. So I'm seeing a lot of young artists, writers, people coming up. I shouldn't say young, just new artists and writers coming up, people feeling more free to be expressive of who they truly are without fearing for how is this going to affect me, affect my family. I would like to hope so anyway.
So when we're moving away from culture and getting, having a better understanding of how it may shape us, can you? And I know you just gave us the beautiful thing of the personal retreat that you took yourself on. Can you discuss like any other personal experiences or stories that highlight the journey from overwhelm to empowerment through intentional risk taking?
Sure, a big one for me is when I decided to move to Japan. I lived in Japan for 5 years, and when I decided to go to Japan, it was because of a bunch of just odd coincidences that happened back to back to back that I felt guided to go to Japan. Even though I didn't speak the language, I didn't have a job, I didn't have any money, it made no sense at all. My parents encouraged me to go. They said, go for 3 months, and if you have a lousy time, just come back to the States. But I went for 3 months and I stayed for 5 years. And it was life-changing for me. But after I got there, I got sick as a dog. I was just really sick for about 2 weeks. I still don't know what I had. And I ended up getting a job working at as a securities lawyer. But I went through a place after the honeymoon phase wore off, and oftentimes the people talk about the honeymoon phase when you move to a different culture. I got really depressed and I thought, what the hell am I doing here? I don't have a base. I just felt like this was a stupid decision that I made. And in coming out of the depression, I just said, before I just give up, let me just give it one more try and get out and try to meet people and just reconnect with why I decided to come here. And so I came back out, which was great. I mean, I don't say people have to come out of depression like that, but I did, and I ended up staying for a much longer time. So it was a risk. I can't say it was a risk that automatically, immediately paid off for me, but it for sure was life changing. So to this day, I honestly don't know how I made that decision, other than I was feeling guided by coincidences that were presenting in my life that were
You
all
know,
pointing.
the thing that you just mentioned was that, you know, sometimes it's not this automatic thing. Like when you do something, and sometimes we want it to be that, "Whew, I feel better now. I feel refreshed. Look,
Right?
this makes everything." It's like, oh, I'm not that
Yay.
anymore. It's like it's like no more rainy days.
Yeah.
And it just isn't that way all the time, right? And so
No.
you're talking about, the process of feeling overwhelmed and then, getting to a place of empowerment and then that intentionality of it. And I know you said that it was a series of circumstances and you were like, okay, I think I need to get to, I think I need to go. How do you even get to that point where you trust yourself enough to say, yeah, let's go do this?
Well, for me, like I said, I had the encouragement of my parents. I'm also the youngest of four kids, so I don't know if they were at the point, it's like whatever. But for me, I always analyze what's the downside. And if the worst that could happen is I go to Japan and I get depressed or I'm bored, or, I just get on a plane and come back to the States. So I still look at a lot of big decisions that way. What's the worst that could happen? What's the downside? Could I live with the downside? And if I can, then I think, why not? You know, because not taking that risk can lead to regret, which is the most corrosive, poisonous. I hate feeling regret. I have things in my life to this day I regret opportunities that I was afraid to pursue. Um, there's no worse for me anyway. There's no worse feeling than regret. So if I can look at an opportunity or a path that I'm interested in or that's calling me and say, what's the worst that could happen if I go down this path? And could I live with that? And if the answer is yes, then I'm off. I'm off.
And just as we begin to wrap things up a little here, what advice would you give Black women who are hesitant, you know, to take risks due to fear of failure or social judgment, or even, I would even add, they don't think that they're worth taking a risk for, even though they'll put themselves out there for someone else. They think, nah, I can't do that for myself. They'll make sure everybody else has, their I's dotted and their T's crossed. But, their hand get a little shaky when it's time to dot their T. Cross their T and dot their I. So just starting with just the fear of failure. What advice would you give women who are just like, I'm kind of scared because maybe things didn't work out before?
Well, fear of failure, I'd say you're going to fail. If you think you're not going to fail in life at something, then that's delusional. But why not fail at something that you're interested in trying? And failure gives good information about, I tried this and it didn't work, but maybe I could try that and I might discover something different. So I hate to think that failure, who's making the rules with your life? What's the failure? What is failure? So I again I would encourage women, especially Black women. They say, what's the expression about feel the fear but do it anyway? Just try it and start small. Start with something that's bite-sized and manageable. And like I said in my book, I've got some bite-sized adventures, and I also have some information I'd like to share with your listeners that could just get people moving in a direction of maybe I could open this window a crack more and see what's on the other side. I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of resource, whatever the excuses are. Just a little bit of a crack open in the window can really help you feel that sparkle again, feel your own radiance again. So the fear of failure, yeah, and people do fail. People fail every day and they survive.
And I know you mentioned your books a couple of times, that since you've been on, and if you're listening to the podcast, you will have a link, Amazon link to check her book out. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna give away 3 copies of your book. And you'll be able to find that on Instagram. Your thing is blurry, so you're so that's why they can't see it. And so you will find that giveaway on Instagram when this uploads, and you'll be able to see it. And the first 3 people that comment on that post will receive a copy of Tisda's book from us. Tisda, I know that you're going to be leaving a gift, something for our audience to listen to. What do they have looking forward to?
Well, it's actually a lot of fun. I'm a gamer at heart, and I feel a lot of this risk-taking we're talking about is kind of the essence of gaming, right? When you're playing a game, you're taking risk-taking chances and challenges. So the part of the present, the gift for the listeners is a bingo card of self-care, bite-sized self-care adventures for people to try out. And they're fun. Some of them are goofy, some of them are more inspirational. But there's that. There's an excerpt of the book that we're talking about, my book, Self-Care Adventure Journal for Bold Black Women. And then I have a book coming out soon. I'm still working on it, but it's a book of coloring pages with patterns inspired by traditional African prints. So that's relaxing, it's fun, it's I hope meditative for people. So it's a little bit of a grab bag of tools and fun all around self-care for Black women.
And we'll have to have you for our coloring night. We do host a coloring night, so that would be great to have. Just can you tell everyone where we can find you, where they can find you on social media and reach out to you?
Sure, if you go to boldblackwomen.com, I'm also on TikTok as Tisda Ving. I'm on Instagram as Tisda Ving, and the website is boldblackwomen.com.
All right, Tissa, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, LaQuanda. This is so much fun, and I look forward to coloring with you.
Oh, yes, we're going to color for sure. All right, everyone. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for listening to Healing Black Women podcast. I am your host, LaQuanda Roberts Buckley.